Hey guys, Chris here from Carolot Farm. It is day two, day one post snowstorm event, I suppose you could say, but this is day two of Fern, our winter weather event. And I'm just starting breakfast for the horses. And not only am I staying like way up on top of all of this snowy, sleety, frozen mess, but as I go to put my grain buckets under the fence, usually I slide Snuggles underneath, it barely fits because there's so much frozen just debris and stuff. So that's kind of funny, but let me show you what things look like this morning and how everyone's doing, and fingers crossed you're doing well because so far we're doing pretty good here on the farm. There is still quite a sag to the roof here over Sweetheart's general normal feedlot, which is why I'm not putting her in there. It's not super strong wood, so if it were to give way, the last thing I would ever want would for a horse to be close by or underneath, and so I'm not going to feed her in there until we either clear the roof or see that a good bit has melted. But anytime you veer from a routine such as this, the horses are a little confused, and it's not always as smooth and seamless as when you follow your routine. So I'm going to leave Sweetheart's food out here just outside the barnyard. I'm going to go in, try to get Snuggles settled here in the feedlot with her food, and then feed Sweetheart in the stall. So again, it's kind of a backwards way of going about things. It's very different from what we normally do, but I think that's what's called for today. So now that she is in her lot eating, I'm gonna grab that bucket for Sweetheart. Because she does paw, and I know she'll knock her bucket over, I have gone ahead and I have swept the ground really well here so that what she does spill, she can then clean up. But that is just one unfortunate side to feeding her in a bucket, not in that giant tub. I thought about bringing the tub into the stall, but there's no real way that I have yet thought of to tie it and secure it. But Sweetheart reassures me that she doesn't mind. As long as she gets her breakfast, she is happy to eat it, however it comes. As I was telling you, with the precip being over now, I want to get out here today and tackle these mats and try to really make a better clearing for the horses. It's very slippery under all of this frozen sleet, and so I want to clear all of it off the mats and go ahead and start to put some of that old hay down like I typically do for traction, because at some point the roof, snow, ice, sleet, whatever you want to call it, will begin to melt, but it's going to be so cold for so many days that I don't think that'll be an issue for like the next 5 to 7. But it could be that once the sun comes out, we might get enough warmth though on the roof to still cause a little melt even when temperatures are below freezing. So again, we'll just have to wait and see, but I want to try to get as prepared as possible. So today, the big task will be clearing the mats in front of the barn. Not only did we end up with, I'm going to say 6+ inches of sleet, just sleet. We didn't get hardly any snow at all. And so our total accumulation amounts were much less. However, if you were to do the conversion, it would still have been a good 1.5 feet or more of snow. So there's a lot of frozen precip that fell. After the sleet finished falling, we ended up getting a bit of a freezing rain that kind of has coated everything. And as it gets colder tonight is the first night where we're going to be dropping down into possibly single digits for the next few. Everything is just going to be one complete solid sheet of ice around here. My cat Shrimp has decided to scale the highest post down here. He's a pretty funny guy. Now that these girls are happy eating their breakfast, I'm going to head to the house, grab my other buckets, and then go feed the other 3 who are up in the front winter paddock. The precip that we got was a little weird. You know, the fact that we had sleet and then freezing rain when it was in the 20s, maybe even approaching the teens, was just really surprising. We thought for sure that we wouldn't be getting that. To me, I think of sleet and freezing rain when you're hovering in the low 30s. So that was a surprise, but luckily it did not accumulate on the trees. No one has lost power in our area. So I think we're through the worst of it. Fingers crossed, but so far everything is looking pretty good. Like yesterday, I'm gonna try to entice the boys to come out of the run-in to eat over here in the field. They're a little confused because this is different, right? They're really not sure how to get to me or what I'm doing. So I'm gonna see if I can't help them out because Lady's eating and they really want to eat too.
Rocky was not quite as quick as Shenanigans to figure out what I was doing, so I fed him in the barnyard, and Shenanigans made his way over here, which is exactly where I fed him yesterday, which had been my thinking today.
Whenever you veer from a routine like this, it can be really confusing. And poor Rocky, he did not figure out what I was trying to get him and Shenanigans to do. Hopefully Rocky will this evening come along with Shenanigans over here to the side where he is. But this isn't such a big deal because Lady is happy eating inside and the boys won't mess with her. She's definitely the most dominant one, and so they know not to get too close.
Just like I did for Sweetheart, I have tried to clear a little area for Lady. I didn't sweep it quite as well as I did for Sweetheart, but this way she can eat what she drops off of her mats without it being too buried in old hay.
Lady is my only mini who currently has a blanket. She's the oldest on the farm, and I wanted to make sure that she did not get too cold. I see her blanket has shifted just a little, which is very common. So I'm gonna right her blanket now and make sure everything seems to be in good fitting order. In my many years of horse ownership, I have rarely, if ever, found a blanket that wasn't prone to shifting. It's just what they do. Sometimes if you have a blanket that has the higher neck on it, when it goes a little farther up, those help to keep the blankets from shifting some. A lot of it though just has to do with the fit of the blanket, the shape of the horse. So far so good though. I know she's warm, she's dry, and if it shifts a little, that's not a big deal.
This is the bucket of warm water that I brought out late last night. It is not totally frozen solid, which is good, but I will want to dump it out and get the horses some nice, clean, warm water in just a bit. I am coming out here to check on their red tub just to make sure the de-icer is working, but it does not look as though anyone has ventured this far as of yet. They seem to be enjoying the warm water inside the barn, so I will keep that up.
But as you can see here, I'll kind of tap it, no ice, which is a good sign. Now tonight and the next few nights to come, when it gets down to single digits, I'm not sure if my de-icer will keep everything from freezing. We might get a little skim that needs some hot water in the mornings. So we'll keep checking on this, but in a way, this is my backup water because I do plan to keep bringing these horses their warm water. The girls though in the back, their primary water source is their red tub. So I'll want to make sure that they don't have any issues. I might even bring them a bucket of warm water, or probably what I'll do actually for them, because they drink out of their red tub well, I will continue to put hot water into the red tub, so that helps the de-icer to keep the water at a more suitable temperature.
My younger minis are so light that they're just staying right on top of the ice. They're barely breaking through.
Do you see the sky? How pretty. We're beginning to get a little bit of blue sky trying to peek through, so we might get some sun today, but right now it's time for hay. In preparation for this winter event, we brought 4 bales of hay to the front run-in here for my 3 that are in the winter turnout. And we covered it with a blue tarp because we knew that we would have so much precipitation falling. We didn't want the snow to drift onto the hay here. Well, it turned out to be sleet, and so I'm still glad we covered it though, because I did have quite a bit of sleet on top of the tarp. But now that the tarp has done its job, the hay is nice and dry, and I'm gonna dig in here and get a few flakes from my guys. I probably won't need to keep it covered because from here on out, the next 7 to 10 days should be dry, just cold. So I don't so much need the tarp anymore, but I'm really glad I covered everything because this hay is in really good shape.
The boys are very happy eating their hay while Lady finishes up her breakfast. I have a lot of picking to do out here today though. They have definitely spent the last 24 hours just hanging out in here, doing all sorts of business. So I'll be back out along with cleaning off those mats. Another big project today is going to be cleaning this run-in.
But let me tell you, I am so happy that these horses have chosen to shelter in this run-in. This is exactly what we wanted. They stayed warm, they stayed dry, they had plenty of old hay to lay down in for a nice warm bed. So I'm really happy to see that they have utilized this just as we had hoped. Rocky here is asking that I hurry up and go get him some warm water. I was pulling a little bit of ice out of that bucket just behind me. I'm not sure what's going on with my phone here.
Although it's not totally frozen, it's still colder than perhaps he would like. So let me go get that water for him.
Something else I did a little different this morning. When I fed the boys, usually they get a small handful of senior feed. And today, because there's absolutely no grazing happening, and for the next foreseeable future, I will be giving them a big scoop of hay stretcher pellets in addition to their handful of senior grain. And that way it's just a little more forage in their bellies.
Rocky says thank you. Just what he wanted, some warm water. Silly boys.
Now that my crew out here in the front has water, it's time to go and give hay to Snuggles and Sweetheart, who are patiently waiting, having finished their breakfast. I do try to not make any of my horses wait any longer than they have to kind of be turned out or to get their hay or to kind of move on to the next phase of the day. However, having horses in two different parts of the farm does mean that everything takes longer. And in this frozen, sleety, whatever we have, it takes even longer. So I'm just glad everyone's patient and we're doing the best we can. We're finding our way. But what is normally like a morning routine that takes an hour is taking every bit of an hour and a half, if not closer to 2. Just because there are a few extra steps and everything is going slower. So now that everyone has been given hay, it's time to start clearing all of the sleet, hopefully, off of my black mats. They're super slippery right now because they have all of that kind of slushy, icy stuff on them. So once we clear them, I'm hoping they won't be near as bad. And I don't know if you can tell, but the sun is trying really hard to break through the clouds. We're even getting a little bit of drip off of the roof here, which can be a blessing and a curse. I mean, I'm glad it's melting. However, what falls will eventually freeze. So right now we're hovering around freezing, I think, but today is the warmest day in the next week ahead. And the nights, like I told you, are gonna be super, super bitter cold. So I'm gonna do everything I can today to help amend the footing here and there, and then just kind of stay on top of things as best we can.
My husband and I came down last night. It was probably 9:30, close to 10, and we gave the horses a little more hay. We did spread it out here though because they were very reluctant to go into the stalls. We were recognizing. Sweetheart, after eating her breakfast, is very content. She's not even eating the hay that she has in her stall. And even Snuggles here, rather than chow down on her hay, she'd rather come and check out my cleaning tools. Always up to something, these young ones.
So I'm just starting this process. I am using my stall cleaning shovel. It has a nice flat end. It's a very sturdy plastic shovel. It's not too heavy. But rather than getting a snow shovel, I figure I'll just use my barn shovel. And it's doing the trick, but this is definitely gonna take some time. Let me show you. I spent a couple minutes and all I cleared was that small little patch. So again, this will take me some time, but it will be worth it because I know the horses will really appreciate it, and it will be much safer down here for all of us.
You know, pawing is a big part of how these young horses, and all horses I suppose, but learn about the world and their environment, their footing. You know, she's checking out the loose sleet that I've already shoveled and tossed away as she's falling through the other frozen piles. So, you know, she's just investigating her surroundings.
As I work to shovel more of this frozen stuff, I am trying to be mindful that when I toss it away, I'm tossing it away from the barn where I don't think the girls will want to spend as much time. So the stuff here, I'm tossing to the very end, kind of around the corner. And then a lot of the stuff that is directly in front of the barn, I'm just tossing a little farther away so that the girls can have this flat spot up on top of the hill. And also whatever I'm throwing out here, as it melts, it will melt and drain away from the barn. So kind of getting it to the edge of the hill and down is my hope.
Inspecting the newly cleared mat. You know, I think she's just checking to see, you know, is it safe for me to walk on? What is the condition of the footing?
I'm gonna say I'm 50% there. Still a lot more to go.
Most of this is just so solid that I'm having to use my boot to kind of chop it up. The shovel is not able to break through it quite so easily.
I have just finally finished clearing off the black mats. They're very wet, they're a little slick, mostly because the horses still have those little ice slippers on. They'll continue to shed them and all, but with so much frozen precip out here, they will continue to accumulate those little ice balls under their feet. But so far, the mats are kind of the best we can do. Because I do have an active drip from the roof, I'm going to not put any hay down here on the mats until later on this evening when it starts freezing, because I imagine I'll have a big puddle right here on my black mat. I have a low spot and it definitely is going to pool water. So I will sweep that away throughout the afternoon, and then we'll come back and put some hay down for traction tonight. And that loose hay will then stick to the wet mats as they freeze, and thus providing more traction. So tomorrow it should be much better out here. It's always good to see your horses drinking. My trough there on the right with the de-icer did not skim over at all. It's in good shape, and I'm so glad to see the girls are happy to drink from it. But look at her just falling into that snowy, slushy, icy stuff. It's a real mess around here. Next on my to-do list this morning is pick these stalls. Because the girls were a little on the hesitant side to come in and out with the slick footing, the stalls actually are not in too bad of shape. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pick what I can, but I've got a little bit of another issue that I'm having to troubleshoot that I'll share with you in a minute. So as I was preparing to come out and get the wheelbarrow to then put my manure into, it dawned on me, after I fill the wheelbarrow, where am I gonna dump it? Because up until now, I've been still spreading the manure from these paddocks out in our ring, and it's covered with 6+ inches of frozen sleet and ice. So I won't be doing that. So I think for right now, for today at least, I am just going to pile the manure over here on the side of the stall. I'll do the same next door. And then I will have to think about where I want to reasonably create kind of a makeshift ad hoc manure pile, because I don't think I'm going to be getting out into that ring to spread for quite some time. I hadn't thought about that before. These two mares are showing me that they really, really want to eat their hay outside of the stall. And so I've taken what I put in the stalls and brought it outside here. You can see Snuggles is at one of the two piles. There's still a bunch of manure that's out here on this mound of snowy, sleety stuff. It's a bit hard to pick because it's all frozen. So I'm going to put the hay where hopefully manure is not. And if the girls continue to want to eat like this, I don't mind feeding them out here. It also means they can stand on the black mats, which are not too slippery anymore. So, you know, if it works, I'm gonna go with it. And then Sweetheart here is still continuing to work on this other pile that we saw her at earlier. So everyone is very content. I'm happy to say it's been a good morning, a busy morning, but now it's time to go and get some breakfast. I'm working to capitalize on this slight melting action that we have going on today. It's maybe 32, 33 degrees. The sun is shining, which is helping with the melting action. And so not only am I stripping this run-in, I'm gonna take a lot of the wet soiled hay and put that outside the gate there where the horses currently are. I'm gonna spread it about to help with traction, hopefully. And I'm also working on just shoveling snow away from the side of the barn to clear my path and to create a shoveled path over to my manure pile, because I do need to be able to go to and from by pushing the wheelbarrow. You can't really do that through 6+ inches of frozen sleet and such. So I have a lot more shoveling to do, but today is the day to do it, because after tonight's refreeze, it's gonna be so cold and everything's gonna be just a solid sheet of ice, and then it's gonna be really, really treacherous, perhaps if we don't do everything we can today. So back to work. I am encouraging the horses to come out though and eat their hay in the field, just right here close to the barn where I know they'll more likely be moving about. And this way, the more they eat, the more they walk around, hopefully the better traction we'll have after things start to freeze. Okay, I just finished it. Our path from the run-in to the manure pile has been completed. I did though have to use my metal flat end shovel to help chop up the frozen sleety stuff before I could pick it up with my snow shovel. Took a long time, but it's done, and this path will serve me now for several weeks. I'm sure 1, if not 2 weeks before all of the stuff melts. So I'm glad to have this done. I'm gonna go finish up in the run-in, and then before long it'll be time to think about soaking grain and getting ready for PM feed. The day is flying by. Thank you so much for joining me today as I work to not only care for my minis, but to dig out from all of the sleet that we had. You know, it is everywhere. We have so much of it, and I know it's going to be here for quite some time to come. Starting tonight, we're going to be having temperatures down in like the single digits, and that's going to be a whole nother host of problems, perhaps. We'll see. But now that we've cleared those black mats by the barn, we've shoveled our path to the manure pile, and we've really tried to prep our spaces as best as possible. I think we'll fare all right, but we'll have to be really careful because things could get really, really slick moving forward. Stay warm, stay dry, stay safe wherever you are. Check back soon. We'll for sure have updates, and we hope to see you in the future. Bye, guys.